Hi, Claudia Luna Palencia. It's Olena Kurenkova, journalist from Kiev, Ukraine. Right now, I'm in a peaceful yet Kiev in the middle of the country that has been in the headlines of the world medias in the recent weeks, especially in the recent days. The events of the recent days and the declaration of President Putin was very worrying, and I can't say that it was something shocking, especially, but of course we are worried about what's happening in Donbass right now, and concerning all of this discussion that had been called concerning the fate of the Ukrainian country, Ukrainian sovereignty in the future. Last night for most of my friends, relatives, and especially colleagues was sleepless. I don't know, it was so for many Ukrainians. First of all, in the evening, most of us were following the statement of President Putin of Russia, who claimed, first of all, that Ukraine, he declared his own understanding of Ukraine's history. It was nothing new, to be honest, because he already told about that in his article before, but the concentration of all of these shocking declarations in these 45 minutes he was talking, he was referring to the Russian people. It was something mind-blowing just at all. I can't say that it was something extremely surprising concerning his recognition of the independence of so-called republics, Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, because we remember that this idea sounded, we heard this idea since January, when Russian Duma applied to Putin and asked him to recognize the independence of these self-proclaimed states. At the same time, there was no such big shock of this news in Ukraine, because we understand that military aggression of Russia has been held against Ukraine since 2014. So nothing new happened. We understood that Russian troops have been in Donbass since then, and now this decision, Putin's decision, just legalized their for Russia. They legalized their appearance in Donetsk and Luhansk occupied territories, regions. On the occupied territories. What is especially worrying about this, for me personally, was this photo and video shots of the Russian troops, Russian tanks, and Russian military forces that are heading across the Donbass and Luhansk occupied territories towards the western borders of these occupied regions, and heading to the independent Ukraine-controlled territories. It was a bit worrying, but at the same time we noticed that today, for example, this claims of Putin that Russia understands the borders of these self-proclaimed republics that have been declared by Russia as independent states. They have to be not in the shape or not in the borders of these occupied territories, but in the territories that take 3 times bigger territory area. It is the whole Luhansk and Donetsk region, and it is a very worrying fact, because we honestly in Ukraine now do not understand when Putin gonna stop, and if there is going to be any further expansion of the territory, or it's just he's hiding his stakes and he'll stop after taking this whole Donbas region. We fully do not understand. But at the same time, the reason everyone, of course, was sleepless last night, that we were waiting for some declaration from our president, President Zelensky. We were waiting for Ukrainian official reaction to Putin's statements, and it was predicted that Zelensky mentioned that Ukraine isn't surprised by this decision, and he just noted that Ukrainian armed forces are fully prepared for everything, any scenario that could happen. But at the same time, we have once again, he mentioned that we have to stop panicking. If we have to be fully prepared, but to be calm, to be not so shocked by all of this news, and to check the information as far as we can do it, and not to be scared by all of this provocation that can be also in the medias from the Russian side, for example, because not all of their declaration could be fully truthful. It is especially important for us to understand and to feel this international support, the support of our Western partners, and it is extremely important for us to see these statements and to hear the statements from the Western leaders concerning the sanctions that are already been prepared by them, and they are ready to implement them any minute, and that all of the world understand, the biggest part, let's say this way, understands that this decision, Putin's decision to recognize the independence of the so-called republics, it's just once again the sign that Putin violated totally the sovereignty of Ukraine, and he violated totally the international law and any legitimate principles of the territorial integrity of the sovereign countries. And of course, these conditions that now he declares for Ukraine to refuse from NATO membership, but the aims of Ukraine's aims to become the member of NATO and EU, we understand, and the position of Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people is absolutely firm. We aren't going to refuse from our long-standing aims because this man, because Putin claims that it somehow doesn't refer to Russian interests. It doesn't mean nothing for us. It's important for us to be firm in this position. But at the same time, of course, Ukraine as well as other Western countries fully understand the responsibility for such position, because it is much easier on the one hand, for us now to refuse from the NATO status, for example, to the status of the candidate to the NATO membership, and perhaps that could stop the military aggression that Russia perhaps is planning nowadays. But at the same time, there is it raises the question, what for all of this thousands of people died in the Donbass, fighting for our liberty, fighting for the possibility of Ukraine to make its own choices. What for that everything was about, and it is important for us to be firm nowadays, of course, and it seems to me that most of us now understand that. I can't say that I notice any panic in social media or on the streets. There is no panic. Ukraine and especially Kiev, that I obviously notice around me, we just continue to live our ordinary life. But of course, it is very noticeable that in all the public transport, for example, or somewhere in the queues, people are reading the news. They are very worried about what is happening around them and about what is going to happen, because there is a big interest of people concerning the thoughts of some experts, and it seems to me that the position of them is very different, because there are different thoughts. Some of them read this sign that of Putin's recognition of the independence of so-called republics as a sign that the further military aggression, military invasion to other territories of Ukraine is pretty possible. But the others say that he's just heightening his stakes and everything's gonna stop in Donbass, and that's all. But one of the possible scenarios I've already heard, it's that it's gonna be perhaps Putin would be stopped on the borders of the Donbas region, and Ukraine will lose some other territories, but at the same time the lives of the people in the biggest part of Ukraine will be saved. But at the same time, once again, we just do not know what to expect from Putin, and we just don't know fully what he has in mind. And his speech yesterday just was so mind-blowing. It just showed that it seems like he personally doesn't fully understand what he is saying, what he is referring, what he ones from other countries and other republics. His claims concerning this history of the Soviet Union also is different from what he said before. So it's very hard to make any predictions. We just remain here. We are trying to be calm, we are following the news, and we very hope for our we have very great hopes for our Western partners, but first of all, we have a faith in our own country, our government, our army, and as far as I noticed, that many people just now think how could they be efficient, how they could be needed for their country, for Ukraine, in case of any military actions here in Kiev or anywhere else in Ukraine. And it is a very unifying feeling for people nowadays, because there is a common problem for people all around the Ukraine, and we fully understand, of course, the embassies that have been moved to Lviv, for example, and people who decided to move from Kiev or from some eastern parts of Ukraine, really having some anxiety or fear about what's going to happen, and they're moving somewhere in Lviv or Chernivtsi or somewhere, or in Zakarpattia, in some western regions of Ukraine.